get it. Believe you can create, see it as innate in the dream room. Yeah, we're bringing dreams alive in the place to shine in the dream room. Yeah.
Welcome back, beautiful souls, to the Dream Room with Amytra. I'm Amytra, inviting you into a space of connection, insight, and healing. Today, I'm honored to welcome Reverend Dr. Jackie Cope, a Native American metaphysical minister, teacher, podcaster, and spiritual coach who guides people from self-hate to self-love through her deeply rooted and intuitive work with Raven Rabbit, LLC. Jackie, your presence is a light in this world, and it's a true gift to have you with us in the Dream Room today.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
So, Jackie, let's begin at the root. You're a proud Native American woman, a Washoe tribal member?
Washoe is the colonialized way of saying it. Washishu is the traditional name.
Okay, a Washishu tribal member.
Yeah.
And a lifelong...
Go by Washoe.
Yeah, and you're a lifelong student of spirit and resilience.
Oh, yeah. My whole life.
How did your cultural and spiritual upbringing shape the woman and teacher you are today?
It played such a big role in my life. When you're little, you don't realize that people live differently. And there was just things, my Washoe side's from my mother and her mother. So there was things that my mother and grandmother taught me that I just thought were norms, that people always talked about the other side or creator or spirituality. And that was, and as I grew up, I realized, oh, people don't talk about this stuff. This is not a dinner table conversation.
Right.
And my grandma and I would just go on and on about things we've seen or heard or what we thought. We'd have all those conversations at the breakfast table or when we were cooking.
Was there a moment or a series of moments when you knew you were being called to help others shift from self-hate to self-love?
That definitely came much later.
Okay.
That's recent in my 30s, where I was really wanting to use my spirituality for others as well, because I realized it's not something that everyone easily taps into. And so I went through a lot of turmoil in my 20s where I was using my spirituality for myself and for my healing. And I realized that there's a lot of people out there who also need this. In my 20s, I dealt with, it was more of an emotionally abusive ex-husband, a Christian ex-husband. They had very different viewpoints in life, and he had unhealthy patterns, and he left me at 29. So when I was 29, I was like, I don't have any kids. And now I'm divorced. So to me, it was like the end of the world. That was like my rock bottom. Who's going to want to marry a divorcee with no kids? Because we tried, but we never had any. So I was like dealing with fertility problems that I thought were mine, but really ended up being his, because later on I moved on and I got pregnant and now I have my husband. So, but it was really hard when I was younger, thinking that it was me dealing with those things. So all of that led to me wanting to do more for myself. It really started for myself first and wanting to heal from within. And then once I came to a good spot, I wanted to share.
So is that where self-criticism came in, or had you encountered it already as a young girl?
As a young girl, preteen and teenager, I had dealt with some of that. And I think that's where my insecurities came from. I felt very stupid as a young girl. All my friends when I was little were in GATE and I wasn't in our little clique. And that's where it kind of started, with the insecurities of like, why are my friends going to like a gifted and talented program and I'm not? So that feeling of left behind. And then that kind of just played out in my life, because that goes back to one of the spiritual laws. What you feel within is happening without. So I felt it. So I just kept getting more experiences of it, of feeling not good enough and not smart enough. And so I went into my marriage with a lot of insecurities in my 20s. And then that emotionally abusive relationship just really brought it out 10 times more and made it way worse. And that's when I really had a hard time once he left and I could focus on myself, that's when I started to really deep dive into where did all of this self-hate come from, and realizing people don't talk to themselves the way that I had been talking to myself.
Mm-hmm.
With you're stupid, you're dumb, you're never going to do this right, why even bother? And then just that perpetual, I have to keep trying and keep going further. So I'm very educated. I have my doctorates in education. I got it by the time I was 29 because I always felt like I had to go to school to prove something.
Right. What began to shift for you? What tools or truths helped you return to self-love?
Once I finished my doctorates in education, I was like, okay, now I want to study things that I care about, not what society has told me I need to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And so I started Googling online, like spiritual programs, spirituality. And I was trying to find a mix of what have I grown up with in my Washoe culture that my grandma has taught me, and what's more a little mainstream that people would understand. Mm-hmm. And that's where I finally came across metaphysics. And I found that site when I was about 29. It was around the time I was going through the divorce. And it was something I just found the website. And I would go back to it all the time. Like, oh, I think I really should go to their program. I should learn metaphysics. And then when I met my now husband, I told him about it one night. He's like, you got to do it. Aww. This is something for you that you've wanted to study. So I did it, and I absolutely loved it. And I have my bachelor's and master's in it, and I wrote my thesis about American Indian spirituality and metaphysics.
Great.
Yeah.
Sometimes that transformation requires facing profound loss or unexpected trials. Jackie, if it feels aligned, would you be open to sharing how your experience with brain cancer shaped your journey of self-worth, courage, and even your calling?
Yes. So it wasn't cancer, thankfully. It was a brain tumor. So my husband and I, we went for our second child. It was October 23. We were like, let's have a second baby. And we got pregnant. There was a little bit of trying over summer, finally happened October. And I got really sick. And I thought, oh, maybe it's the second baby. I don't know what's going on, but I just chalked all of my symptoms up to being really bad prenatal. I can't think of the word right now. Those symptoms you get.
Yeah.
And I had headaches, nauseous, all of your typical pregnancy symptoms. And it just got worse and worse because my mom was like, oh, wait till second trimester. It always gets better. And by the time January, February rolled around, I was worse. At that time, I was working at the local tribe up here. I was their director of education because I took a sabbatical from teaching because I felt like I needed a break. Mm-hmm. And I had a simple office job is what I would call it. Like when it comes to physical stuff, I could go to the bathroom when I wanted. I could get up. I could sit down. I did not have a physically demanding job like I did with teaching kindergarten. I was running around all day. But I was so tired, extremely tired. And it got to the point where I'd have to hold on to the wall to walk to the bathroom because I was just so off balance. And I was teaching literacy to some of the kids there, and I could hardly get through reading small groups when that was just an easy part of my day as a teacher. And it was the last weekend of February, like President's Weekend or so, and we went on a trip that I had planned, just a simple, we like to go rock hounding, we like to look for crystals and quartz. And I think I took the energy force out of my husband too, because he was so sick and so tired. Like that trip was napping and barely eating. And the whole family, even my son who had lots of high energy we were just not well. Yeah. So then I thought, maybe we all just have something on top of me being pregnant. Mm-hmm. We have a touch of something. And March 2nd or so, it was a Friday, I said, I want to go get acupuncture. Like something's wrong. I want to try something a little more spiritual, try to get in alignment. And we went to acupuncture. And I had never had it done before, and I felt really good. It was like all the release in my body. And when he got to my head and he put the needles in the top, it was like screaming pressure. like trying to release and get out. And it hurt so bad. And to get to that acupuncture appointment, I had to hold on to my husband as he carried me basically all the way to the appointment and back out. Then the next day after that, I soiled the bed, and because I'm in my master room to go to the bathrooms a few steps away. And I was like, nope, we got to go to the hospital now. Something is extremely wrong. We went to the hospital. We're there for a few hours, did all the checks. They're like, the baby's absolutely fine. You're good. Do you want to go back to the ER? And I said, yes, because something's wrong. And I told the doctor there, my head has never hurt like this before. And he's like, well, it's not typical to a pregnant person, but we can do a CAT scan and see what's going on. And then that's when he found it. And it was the size of a golf ball in the back of my head.
Oh, my goodness.
Pushing on my cerebellum. So that's why I was falling and not feeling like straight on and like right. And so I spent another night there as they were contacting hospitals to figure out where for me to go. Lots of hospitals would not take me. I was 22 weeks pregnant with needing an emergency brain tumor that they didn't know anything about. They don't know if it's cancerous or not. And finally, a doctor at UCLA took me. And I went to the hospital Sunday. I had emergency brain tumor surgery Wednesday. That's how quick it was.
Wow.
And it was a really long operation. It was about 12 hours. It was like 6 to 7 hours of them actually removing it, 5 hours of closing me up, and like 3 hours of me in just waiting to wake up and come back to it, like post-op. And when I went into that, there's like no time to think. I was like, I have to stay calm. I can't freak out when I'm carrying a baby and start crying for myself. And after I did my metaphysical program, I was trying to find healthier ways of rewarding myself besides my family's go-to, like food or alcohol. And so I did Reiki training for my celebration of finishing my metaphysics.
Oh,
and I remember my Reiki teacher saying that she did hospital care. Like she'll go into the hospital when someone's having surgery and give them Reiki as the surgery's happening. Because she has like some kind of clearance with that, with medical. And so that's what I did. Going into the surgery room, prior to it, I was like giving Reiki to future, like have the right hands in there. Everyone who's supposed to be here will be here. Because they wanted to do it on Tuesday, but they didn't have a certain doctor there that they wanted. Because there was 3 to 5 doctors in the room with me being pregnant.
Wow.
On top of it. So it was not a normal surgery. And I was like, everyone who's supposed to be there will be there. All the right things are going to happen. Everyone's going to know what to do. And just blessing all the people who were going to work on me, like that they're going to have a good night's sleep. They're going to feel good. Because it's a long time to work.
Isn't it?
Somebody opened up on the table.
That always amazes me.
Yeah, and so that's what I did. And after the surgery, I kept feeling a presence there. I know it was a woman's presence, and she was just giving me Reiki after the surgery. She was just there sitting at my foot of my bed, just sitting with me, giving me healing energy.
Incredible.
In the realm. And it was very spiritual. And I tried to be more in that way versus I feel like my old way where I would have freaked out, having a panic attack. Why is this happening to me? I didn't go there at all with this. And it was a really big thing and really scary.
Yeah.
And then it was a long road to recovery. So then I went home Saturday. So it was like one week of just craziness. Got home on Saturday, and luckily my husband, he was a corpsman in the Navy, so he's a military nurse.
Wonderful.
And they're kind of they're combat doctors, basically. They got to know how to keep you alive in the middle of a combat. So they know a little bit more than a nurse does. And he just fully took care of me. Like, he had a schedule up of my meds, because that was a big thing, too. They had to figure out what to give me. Because I couldn't take much.
Right.
So it was very painful recovery. I think had I just been able to take normal painkillers, it wouldn't have been so bad. but I was on very specific things and specific dosage, and I wasn't allowed to have very much.
And then you were still pregnant.
Yeah, and then I was like, my goodness, my head's cut open. And then in a few months, few weeks, I'm going to have to push a baby out, and it was most likely going to be a C-section because the doctor's like, you can't push. We can't have any pressure up on your head like that.
Yeah.
And we tried natural. They tried inducing with the balloon and stuff, but it ended up being C-section. So I was like, most likely I'm going to be sitting here with my stomach cut open and my head cut open.
Oh,
Just so much pain.
what a woman.
Yeah, it was a lot. So yeah, then July came. So I had a few months of recovering. I was walking with a walker and a cane. My fine motor skills were what really took a hit. So learning to use a knife again, learning to write again, all of that took time. And I went back to work for a little bit in May. The doctor at UCLA is like 2 months and you can go back to work. And I was like, okay. Sounds crazy,
gosh.
but okay.
Jackie.
I thought I was going to have a year off after this.
You deserved one.
Yeah, it was good, though, to get back into the swing because I think I would have coddled myself if I wasn't forced to, because typing, too, I write. And so how slow I was typing was another hurdle of trying to get over. Like, okay, I type slower now. This is how it is.
Yes. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that experience and how it shaped you?
Oh, just that it was very spiritual, and it definitely taught me to lean into spirit when things are extremely difficult like that.
Yes. Your work with Raven Rabbit LLC integrates so many beautiful tools, metaphysics, energy healing, ancestral wisdom. What does your spiritual coaching actually look like in practice?
I like to get specific on what each person needs. It's hard to make this blanketed, here's this program. So the program I've been building is this self-hate to self-love, and it's kind of this blanket thing for group coaching. But what I like to do is to get very specific with the person, and that goes into my intuitive readings and being able to sit down with somebody and have our higher selves work together. So I'll sit down and say, our higher selves are going to work together. Our spirit teams are going to work together. And the messages that come through are what I'm going to share with you. And they're going to be whatever they are. They might not be what we set out to talk about today. Because it can come from some completely left field and be like, oh my goodness, I didn't think about that. Or that's something that never crossed my path. So I really like to lean into my intuitive side for one-on-one coaching. And if there's something that comes up that I'm not an expert in or I don't have the modality of, I like to send people off with the information that I can and tell them to look further into whatever might be coming through. So I had one client, she felt that she had somebody coming through who was from Egypt. And was Egyptian. And I told her, there are some experts out there who love and feel the Egyptian power that I don't. I don't have that connection yet. Right. So sending her down the path of, if you feel that's what it is, you definitely need to look into that. Because I'm not going to have the message for everything.
Have you ever gotten a message that you were reluctant to share?
Yes. Sometimes they're hard to share, and I'm debating, I want spirit to tell me, how do I word this in a way that's not scary? That's they could understand. One, I'll go do house clearings, and this, my husband will be in all these Facebook groups and see stories for me. People will post oh, there's something weird happening at my house. I need help. And he'll get on there. And so he'll have this background conversation with these people and then give it to me and say, here, these people need help. And so it was in our little community here, and she felt there was something really heavy in her house. And she wanted help getting it out. So I did Reiki clearing around the house, and just sage, like what my uncle taught me, how you clean a house in a specific way.
Mm-hmm.
And she had it in like, she was thinking it was going to be done a certain way in the house. And I was like, or she wanted the property done, something like that. And I ended up telling her, no, this is where I wanted to work. So it ended up being a little bit different than what she had envisioned. I think she wanted me to walk the whole property.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, what we're going to do is in the house. And that's what needs to be done. And when I was in there, I kept seeing somebody with an orange flannel running around. And they didn't feel very good to me. I was like, this is the thing that's probably bothering her, whoever this is.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time in the center of the house in this particular closet and worked there. And I was like, finally, like, let me just tell her what I see. Because I felt like, oh, do I tell her this? Like, who I'm seeing? I never know what's going to bring up.
Right.
And I told her, and she was pretty much like nothing. She was just like, okay. And she didn't say anything to me. And I was like, well, I said it. It is what it is. We did it. We come home, and later, my husband goes with me. Later that night, she messages my husband and was like, told him this big, long story about who that person was. And she was just shocked when I told her. And she felt so good that that person had finally been released, and she did her own work. So even though it's scary to bring up, I'm like, I'm happy I brought it up, and that's what she needed closure with.
Do you ever face like entities yourself that you feel like, okay, you have to put a boundary up or send them packing? Yes. Or how do you do that?
So this gets into more of like my younger spirituality stuff that is harder to talk about.
Okay.
My grandmother was born in the 40s. And so Washoe is in the Lake Tahoe area,
mm-hmm.
which you're very close to. And there was deep assimilation happening and deep segregation. Like there was, like how we think of the South, there was Indian only sections, white only sections. So my grandma was raised in a very hard time. And with that was natives were not allowed to practice their spirituality within that time. And natives had only got the right to practice spirituality in the 1970s.
Wow.
And at that point, so much had already been lost because you couldn't speak your language, you couldn't do your rituals. And so my grandma had this like apprehension when she taught me. Like she knew she needed to teach me these things, but there was always that apprehension of like, but we're not supposed to talk about this.
Right.
Because of the sense of legally we couldn't, because you could end up getting arrested for this stuff. You are breaking the law talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so because things weren't always talked about so clearly, I would like dabble or see things. And I think it let in a lot of negative energy in my field. So when I think about things I saw younger,
mm-hmm.
they were very scary. And it scared me a lot,
mm-hmm.
whatever I would see. There used to be a black shadow that would stand in my doorway and stare at me all night. That
mm-hmm.
had a very negative feeling. Like I did not like seeing him at nighttime. And my mom had awful stories growing up of the things that had happened to her. She had this big cast iron bed that something would lift her up and push her back against it. And she knew she was awake because she could feel the coldness of those iron bars on her back.
Mm-hmm.
Then she gave me that bed to sleep in.
What?
I got older, and I was like, oh, this bed.
No way.
Not good experiences sleeping in that cast iron bed. Yeah. And so there was just a lot of negative, and I would tell my mom and grandma, and they would tell me, you tell it to go away. You call on your grandpa Jack, he was a medicine man
mm-hmm.
in my tribe, and he would deal with it. Things would get cleared out, but then something else would come. And it wasn't until my late 20s and early 30s when I've learned about metaphysics and Reiki about setting boundaries
mm-hmm.
and not allowing that stuff into my field at all. So very rarely now for like the past 5 years has anything scared me deeply where I'm like, this is really negative. This is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
The last really bad negative entity I was dealing with was in my late 20s through that divorce and that emotional turmoil I was in. There was a black shadow entity that would come over my ex-husband, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like possession. But And I thought I was losing my mind. I was like, I must be depressed. This is what people talk about when things aren't going right. Because it was so much suppressed of like, just get rid of it. Tell it no. Put it away. Like, it never was dealt with. And I would see this one time I looked up at him from the bed and we had gotten in a fight and I was crying and this black shadow started swirling in his face and getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, this thing is like taking him over. It's taking me over. And it took a lot to get rid of that black entity that was on us. He left in the divorce, and so it kind of left. But once in a while, I would drive down my road, and I would see it like flying out from my house over, like basically to greet me as I drove down the road. Like, oh God, here's that thing again. Yeah. And like follow me back to the house. And it took a while to be like, you're not welcome here. You have no control over me anymore. Like, you need to go back wherever you came from because it's not here.
Right.
And that was the last really scary thing I dealt with. And setting up those boundaries. And Reiki, it really helped to talk about our work field and putting that gold cast over you and around you. And I started doing that too. Like, wherever I go, like work, I would see the gold cast around me, keeping me safe. If we were going to go on vacation somewhere, I did it at the hospital when I had the brain surgery, like just enclose us with safety and divineness so that everything can go accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've spoken before about honoring the ancestors, the land, and ceremony as daily practices, not just rituals for special moments. How do you bring ancestral ceremony into your everyday life or sessions with others, maybe?
Yeah. When I was raised by my grandma and grandpa, my mom, it was always, you can talk to whoever you need to talk to. My grandma and mom would say, talk to your Grandpa Jack. I never met him. He died the year before I was born, but it feels like I have because I'll just call on him and talk to him because my parents, my mom gave me that permission. And just calling on him and other ancestors, or now that my ancestors unfortunately have started to pass, like my great aunts and stuff, calling on them when I feel that I need them in certain times. And also there are like things in my house. Like there's a very old picture of my great grandparents. That's a pretty predominant picture in like Washoe culture. Like if you go to the Washoe office, it's up. If you research Washoe people, you're going to see this picture of my great grandparents in their rabbit fur blankets. And their picture was in my grandma's house, my mom's house. And when I got a house, my mom and grandma were like, here's your picture. You need this. They need to be up. And so now they're sitting at my altar that I have right now, just to remind me when I sit down and do my work of where I came from and what I'm doing. So it's like a simple way, a picture. A picture is such an easy way to bring them in to your work. And then even items that you have of them or that remind you of them. My grandma's thing was poinsettias. And so I have this little tiny poinsettia figurine. So she's sitting there with me when I do my work. And I have rabbit furs. Rabbits were, and that goes into my like business name. I'm Raven Rabbit. Raven was the animal that always followed my grandma around. Wherever she went, there was a raven. So like my whole life, I've always just seen ravens, and she would just talk on and on about them. And then the rabbits were what the Washoe people ate as like a main food source. When I was a little girl, there was this video. It was called Rabbit Boss. It's like an old school documentary of how the Washoe people would go out and how they hunted in a very specific way. So in traditional ways, there was bosses of stuff. Like a deer boss was in charge of hunting deer. The rabbit boss was in charge of the rabbits. And the fish boss. They were the ones who were saying, this is when we're going to hunt, how we're going to hunt, and how much we're going to make. And so I was just obsessed with that video as a kid. Like I watched it over and over again. It was a very boring, dry documentary. And then when I got older and I was a teacher, I was running Native Club at the school I worked at, and I made them watch it. I'm like, we're going to watch this movie. It's the best. And these kids are like, what are we watching? But that's where that comes from. And then I named my son Jack's Rabbit.
Oh,
So that just keeping that going. And then our second son is, middle name is Raven.
uh-huh.
So there's just a Raven Rabbit is just tied through personal life and everything. So bringing in feathers in my work, to go back to your question, it was a long ways around, but bringing in feathers and like rabbit furs into my work, because that's just so important to me, and bringing it back to Mother Nature and grounding.
Yeah.
And when it comes to earth, working with the plant medicines like sage, cedar, sweetgrass, working with those, burning them as incense and stuff.
There's something deeply sacred about remembering where we came from, isn't there?
Yes.
What healing have you witnessed when people come together in embodied, intentional space?
I just see a lot of, I want to say like affirming that what you're experiencing isn't crazy. And I hate the word like woo woo. Like, I don't say that in my stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Everything's very affirming when you get the collective together, because they're like, me too, or I've experienced that, or I had a friend who told me that. Just being together in space and affirming one another. We go to the Center of Spiritual Living for our Sunday, and there are a lot of elderly people who go to that. It's like church, but they don't call it church. And hearing them talk and stuff, really, for me, when they get together, I'm like, oh, this is spot on everything I experience and I do. But for some reason, in like American culture, it takes until you're like elderly to get together and do that stuff. Because I would say my husband and I are like some of the youngest people who go there, and we're 30s and 40s.
Wow.
Most people are very elderly there.
It sounds like an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the way it was before we got all industrialized and everything.
Yeah. Well, going back to the collective, in traditional Native ways, is the young mothers and fathers, they went out and hunted and gathered, and the children and the elderly stayed together.
Oh.
The elderly, they don't call them babysitters, but they were their teachers. They taught the little ones everything they needed to know, as the middle-aged people went out and did everything you needed to survive.
Right.
And so there was always that collective of being raised together and not separated from your elders. And so I've always had more of an inclination to be with older people ever since I was a little girl. There was these two old ladies who lived down the street from me. They were sisters. Her name was Dot and Doris. I loved saying their name. I'm going to go see Dot and Doris. And I'd be this little 7-8-year-old, and I'd go sit on the couch and talk with them.
Oh.
But that was what was fun to me as a kid, because I just wanted to be around elderly people.
Yeah. I mean, that's super healthy.
Yeah.
And they make you feel seen, and they teach you stuff, and it kind of like, and when you're younger, you have so much wonder, and you're just so open to new information.
Yeah, and old people have the patience. I shouldn't say old. Elderly people have the patience to like talk about it all.
Yeah.
Unlike your middle-aged parents who are like trying to get everything done.
Right.
They don't always have patience to answer all of your questions.
Yeah, they have too much stuff to do.
Yeah.
In a time when so many feel fractured or unseen, I imagine your work brings a kind of soul visibility. You're also a self-mastery guide, right?
A what?
A self-mastery guide?
Oh. Yes.
A phrase I love because it implies both personal responsibility and divine trust.
Yes.
What does self-mastery mean to you in a spiritual context?
It's really knowing who you are and where you've come from and where you want to go. And it makes me think of like the timeline, how we sit here in the 3D earth and we have past, present, and future. But when we look at things from a broader perspective, like time is just a made up thing. My husband and I say it to each other at night when we start talking about things, and we'll be like, but remember, time's just made up. When we talk about this stuff, like there's infinite possibilities and infinite timelines, and it's about knowing what we want, being able to realize what has happened to us before and where we want to go instead. And that we have the power to go back, even though it's not really going back, and shifting that. And that gets into like that inner child work, going back to the inner child and doing healing work and giving that inner child what they needed that they didn't get at the time. And then giving that love, it'll come back to you through this timeline of your current time. Yeah.
Can you share a tool or question or reflection that helps people tune into their inner compass?
Tool or reflection for the inner compass. For me, it's kind of like played out in the coaching world, but it's affirmation work. Like, that is so important. And when I took my metaphysics program, that was the bulk of the work. And when I started off, this is that self-hate talk, I had talked so negatively to myself for so long that those affirmations felt so weird to say, like, I am abundant, I am this, like these really high level things that I was having to repeat. Like it was so hard to physically say.
Right.
But doing those affirmations makes you check yourself. Like, why do you feel weird saying that? There's nothing wrong with you being abundant or smart or giving. So where is the disconnection, and why are you having a hard time saying that? Because I'm really careful in my self-hate to self-love course. We don't start off week one, I love myself, because most of us are not even ready to say that to ourselves. Like, we have to take baby steps into really getting there and authentically getting there. Because sometimes we say these affirmations and they're not authentic, and we never come around to them either. We just keep saying them and saying them with no meaning, because we're not analyzing why do we feel the disconnection with that.
Right.
So I started off small with my affirmations. I did all of the affirmation work that I had to do with my bachelor's, but then I was like, let me do my own. And mine started off so simple. It was, I am safe and I am exactly where I need to be. Just practicing that over and over to find that safety again. Because after getting divorced, I didn't feel safe at all. I was like, everybody leaves, no one stays. I can't keep anybody around. So I had to regulate into the safety.
Right.
And then regulate into, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Because when you're in the depths of divorce, it's like, why am I here? This is terrible. In any of your circumstances, why am I here? And I was doing that work before I went to brain surgery and saying those things to myself too. I am safe. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that's how I do self-check, especially when I start feeling dysregulated.
Have you ever done mirror work?
In a sense, with the affirmations, saying them to myself, but not really deep.
Yeah.
Because I know it can get there's a lot of ritual that can go with it.
And how does dream work or meditation play into that journey of self-trust?
Oh, dream work. That's another huge thing for me. I have been a vivid dreamer my whole life. That is something that my mother and grandmother and I used to talk about. What'd you dream about? That would be a normal conversation.
Yeah.
My grandma and mom would call each other, what did you dream about last night? And then I'd ask. We'd all just tell each other. It was always this normal thing. And then I realized, people don't talk about that. That's not a good morning, how are you, what you dreamed about last night conversation. But for me, dreaming is a real place. It's an astral place that you go. And as I got older, I started harnessing, that was probably one of my first things I really started harnessing. It was when I was in my college time in my dorms, I started having all these vivid dreams about Lake Tahoe all the time.
Huh.
I was like, why am I having these dreams? And I would dream about this very specific place. And I fought the urge to want to Google it. I'm like, let me just follow these dreams and write what I'm seeing and feeling. And I wrote this story, and that's my first published book that I have. And then finally, when I finished writing it, I was like, let me Google this place because I know it's got to be real. And sure enough, there it was. It's called Whale Beach, Lake Tahoe.
Wow.
So when I told my mom about it, and I said, this is a place I've been dreaming about for years. I wrote this story that's going to be published. now we need to go. Because there's like some reason I've been dreaming about this place. And then it was just beautiful. My mom read my story because before I got it published and stuff, you always want to check in with your elders. It was a Native contemporary story. I told my mom, can you read this? Would this be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can I put this out in the world? And she was like, yes.
Oh.
Love it. Good story.
What's it called?
It's called Just Indian.
Just Indian.
It's my first children's book.
Oh.
And not too long ago, because this was when I was 26. This was in 2016. I did this. Like a few years ago, my mom goes, I reread your book the other day. You dreamt about your grandpa's life. That was Grandpa Jack's story. I was like, what? How did you not pick that up years ago? Like, what are you talking about?
Right?
So then I realized, I'm like, dreams are so powerful. Like my Grandpa Jack was trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
In that dream. And I've been very intentional when I go to bed. Like, now I keep a dream journal next to me and I'll jot down what I dreamt of. And then like I'll have dream requests. Like I want to understand how to do this in my business.
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand why this isn't working out for me. So that I'll get some kind of just a request. And whatever you dream, that's your answer. Even if it feels like totally off the wall, somehow it's an answer in there.
It reminds me of an experience I read, some CEO, very powerful dude, and I can't remember his name anymore, but he had a ritual every day at work. He would stop at a certain time and spend a certain amount of time meditating just in a dark room. And he would go in there and instruct his subconscious, I need an answer to whatever it was. And he would always come out with the answer. I thought, that's really cool.
My grandma did that all the time too. She was so funny. We'd be sitting at the kitchen table and her head would fall a little and she'd doze off. It would feel like 3 minutes. And then I'd not notice she fell asleep and say something. She's like, oh, I just had a dream. How did you have a dream that fast? She's like, I need to do this. And I do that too. So like listening to a CEO who does that, like I can easily do that too. Like, I have to stop everything. But your conscious brain just gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
And slow it down and then meditate. So your dream work plays a big role in my writing and how I process stuff. I've always been the person too that I never give a quick answer. I'm like, let me sleep on it. Once I've slept on it, then I feel good about it. Because then I know the answer will come to me of what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Or even just studying too. Like, oh, I just learned so much. I need to sleep on it so my brain can start organizing it.
For someone listening right now who's in a dark place, what would you whisper into their spirit?
You are loved. That's number one. You're loved and you're not alone. Because so many of us get so disconnected from love and then we feel that we're the only ones.
Yeah.
And that's that dark side trying to separate us from the collective. Oh, you're the only one dealing with this. No one will understand.
The illusion of isolation. Jackie, would you be willing to offer a blessing or short prayer, something rooted in your own lineage or practice for all who've gathered in this sacred dream room today?
Yes. Before we got started this evening, I use something called the Gentle Tarot.
Oh.
And an indigenous woman made this tarot card that was more aligned with Native practices. And so I pulled 3 cards, and I feel like those would be perfect for a blessing.
Yay.
So the first card I pulled, so it does follow tarot too a little bit. But the first one I pulled was the Chariot. And it's a picture of a grizzly bear. He's got 2 salmon in his mouth. And the rainbow's reflecting in the water below him. And when we think of the grizzly bear, especially in Native terms, we think of like all of the power and confidence that these grizzlies have. And I want people to know that there's so much triumph in their blood and in their bloodlines. And that they need to tap into their confidence and take confident action and trust it with ease. And the second card I pulled up, I pull this card a lot. I love this one. It's Two of Cups. And it's that a reminder that you're worthy of nourishment and you're worthy of connection and care. And I think that goes back to what we were just talking about. Somebody's feeling alone. Like, you deserve to be cared for.
Yes.
You deserve connection, and you're worthy of love. Always.
Yes.
And then the last card I pulled was Nine of Cups. And that's really leaning into a time to relax, taking care of yourself, and just being alive and living in the moment. And in this photo, I didn't talk about the picture of the other one, but in the Nine of Cups, she's laying in a grassy field. The rainbow's above her, and there's a little bit of rain, and the birds are flying. Like, she's just relishing in the moment of being alive and being connected to Mother Earth.
There's two symbols, two cards with rainbow as hope, right?
Yes. Yeah, rainbows on two of the cards. And that's to remind you, too, that the spiritual realm is always there, and there's always hope, and there's always looking over you.
You are not alone.
Yeah, if anything was our theme today.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
I call my spirit team my divine posse.
Oh, I love it.
I'm like, okay, divine posse, I need you. I know you got my back now.
That's so good.
Jackie, thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to share? And do you want to tell listeners how to get a hold of you and anything about your services that you offer?
Yeah, of course. I am on lots of social media. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Raven Rabbit LLC. And my website is www.ravenrabbit.com. And that's where everything's explained on the website. Talking about my one-on-one, my group coaching, and some of my self-paced courses are on there. And some native goods that I make as well. I do have my big course coming up. The doors are going to open July 28th and be open till August 18th. So we could take a group of women and femme to come together and really talk about how we go from self-hate to self-love and putting in meaningful practices in our life and not just another checklist. And I also have a podcast on Spotify. It's Raven Rabbit Wellness Studio is
and
where
it's
I
really
share
good
just tips.
I listen to it. I love it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to listening to more episodes.
Thank you. That was really, all of this has been a lot of healing of my throat chakra, coming into my voice and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for your courage, your clarity, your calm presence. Your journey from pain to power is a mirror for so many of us. I'm personally very inspired by your story, and I'm so glad you decided to share it with the world. To everyone listening, may you remember your roots, reclaim your worth, and rest into the knowing that you are never alone on this journey. Until next time, stay grounded, stay dreaming, and stay open.